Hey, Ashley.
Hi, we're live.
We are live. So, this is kind of a new thing for us at WMN, right? And so, as WMN has been growing along with AIME, and we've invited more and more women to be a part of this community and of this network, it feels like we're just doing more and more to empower women and to have a voice in this community. So, just excited to be here. I know this year started the first year that we've really kind of grown some larger committees. And so I'm on impact and influence, and I've been a part of AIME for, gosh, it'll just be coming up on 1 year come this Fuse in October. And then I know that you are also on one of the committees. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how long you've been with AIME as well?
Yeah, so I'm on the Vibe and Voice committee, which is a lot of outreach to not only the members, but the members that we want to come into our fold here, right? Like there's so many women that we want to connect with. And I really, truly enjoy that piece of it. So I got on the Vibe and Voice little subcommittee for the Women's Mortgage Network. And I've been part of AIME for, since 2000 I joined when the Brokers Are Best movement started, back when it was called Brawl. And I got into the group. I've been a broker pretty much my whole entire career. I did a little bit in wholesale. And that was because they purchased my brokerage. And then I got back into brokering. And then I was in the AE channel for a little bit. But I've been a part of the whole AIME organization basically since inception. And I've been attending the events year over year over year. So, I think I'm going on my 6th, 7th year, I think now, being a part of the organization. And I attended the very first women's mortgage event that they had in Irvine. And when this whole thing was kicking off, and it was a small, really intimate group. And it's been really, really cool to see it grow. And like you mentioned, we now have a committee, and I believe we've got 20 women, I believe, on this committee, just very, very powerful women with the same mission, is just to continue to connect all the wonderful women in our industry. And it's a rebirth, and it's really exciting to be part of the rebirth because we now get to form what we do going forward, which is really cool. And we each get a voice, we each get a say in what we're doing and how we want this to look, and we get to dream it all up together. And so it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect word, is like dream this all up together, because everybody has a different gift that they're bringing to these committees, and then together we get to kind of like play in this space of like, oh, what can we do? How can we make this better? How can we invite more women? How can we make people feel more like that sense of community and stuff like this? So, but I've got to take us back, because as a newbie, coming from the retail side, I've been 15 years on the retail side working for an actual depository bank. So it was like as retail as it gets, and never really even peeked into the side of the broker world until last year. So before it was Brokers Were Best, I did know the brokers are better, but you mentioned something was it Brawl? Do you know what is that?
Yeah, so brokers rallying against wholesale lenders. It was the whole solicitation fight that we were leading the charge on. And Anthony Costa was the one who started it. So he was leading the charge on that. And, prior to the meltdown and for some years after, if we go way back, to 2008, and I got in the industry in 2009. So I wasn't even part of the meltdown, but brokers didn't have a voice. We didn't have anyone that was out there championing us. We didn't have lobbyist groups. Like we just didn't have any of that, right? Mm-hmm. Like you get on the banking side. And so that's really where the birth of that started. And it was a stand against the wholesalers that would solicit your business. And so that's how that started. And we wanted to align ourselves with wholesalers that really truly partnered with brokers. And if we're sending you a loan, like that's our client and we get to retain that client. So that was where that started. And it really brought, I believe, this part of our industry together as one. And that's why you see we have AIME partners, and a lot of the wholesalers that we work with are truly an extension of us in our business, not working against us. We're not all fighting for the same client. They're working with us. So that's how it all started. And that's where the group came about. And then within all of this, women, we just have a very different experience than men, not in a good way or a bad way. It's just our journeys are completely different. We just have different perceptions. We approach things a bit differently than the men do. And we needed a safe place in order for all of us to be able to come together and support one another in a way that just a male just can't quite do that. They don't have the same experience as we do. For example, I'm a mother, I'm a working mom, and my day-to-day looks a lot different than a lot of the men that I work with. And I've worked for men pretty much my whole entire life. I have a great relationship working with men, and it's not about the women versus men thing, but it's about women supporting women. That's what it's all about. And so this was born before COVID kind of shut everything down. We had our very first event in Irvine. And like I said earlier, it was a small, really intimate event. And from there, it was like, wow, we really formed something special. I mean, there were friendships that were coming out of this group. Some of my very best friends I've met through these groups. And so you get that personal elevation, right? Where you're just really, really solid friendships, but then your business is also succeeding from it too, because now you have a safe place that you can go and you have people you can talk to about some of the struggles that we deal with. You have a place that you can just connect and communicate with somebody who really, truly can empathize with what our journey is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so beautiful. I think the inception of kind of where things started came out of necessity, right? A need, like somebody saying, hey, this is missing in our industry. We need to come together and fix this and have one voice and create something more powerful. And through that, then, AIME and WMN then is the continuation of people coming together and saying, hey, there's a need. We need a bigger voice, right? So you've got AIME, which is an amazing community. And then you've got women in the WMN community coming together with that same philosophy of how do we come together and support each other in our needs? And like you said, we're doing the same job. We're the same people. We have all of the same struggles, but the way that we approach things is slightly different. And I think you said it, having friends in that community, is so impactful and empowering. And I know for me on my journey, it's been like the number one thing that's helped me have confidence, in this industry. And so, you went to the first one in Irvine and, maybe there were a handful of people. When I came into my first WMN event, that was in New Orleans at Fuse 2024. And there was a lot of people there, like a lot. And it was kind of intimidating. But what was helpful is that I had already connected with Laura Brandeo and Julie Yarbrough. And so when I got there, and I said, hi, I'm Melissa. I'm the one who talked to you on the phone. They were like, oh my gosh, hi. Like, who can I connect you with? How can I help you? And that wasn't just those two leaders who did that. I mean, when we sat at tables, we had these workshops that they had put on. And so with the table of women in the workshop, I was able to connect and say, well, where are you on your journey? Here's where I'm at on my journey. And they were like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. How can I help you? At this time, I still hadn't made the transition to broker. And, I was just on that cusp, and they were like, here's how I started. Here's what struggles I faced. And I was like, wow, this is where I belong, because these women were just such a tight-knit community and just welcomed me right away.
And I love that was your experience, because that's how we want everyone to feel. And it can be very intimidating, whether you are just transitioning to the broker side, whether you've been in it for a couple of years. We're all at different walks, right? And it can be very intimidating to walk into rooms that you don't know anyone in. And it also can be very intimidating for a woman to walk into a room full of men. I mean, it just can be. That's just kind of what we deal with, right? And so
a room full of strangers, regardless, right?
It's just, it can just be a little nerve-wracking, right? And I'm a very outgoing person, and there's times where it can even rattle me a little bit, when you're walking into a room where you just don't know a ton of people. And I love that was your experience, because that's what we want to embody. That's what we want everybody to feel, that you walk into that room and you immediately have 100 new girlfriends. And I think that the people that are part of the committee and the people that are in WMN, we all have that essence about us. Like, we have aligned ourselves so well with some amazing women in this community that we all want everyone to feel that experience. And you don't have to wait for a seat to be pulled up. You can pull up your own chair. We will make room for everyone. We will build as many tables as we need for people to have a seat at them. And that's truly how I want everyone to feel when they walk into one of our events for WMN.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking of, walking into that room, by the way, and I've seen a couple of men who have been such a great support of the WMN
They
committee
love
and
it.
community. Yeah, they love it. And so at that very first event, I did meet a gentleman who, I was waiting in line at the bar, of course, because when you don't know anybody, at least when you're standing in the bar, you have a reason to turn around and talk to somebody. So I was talking to him and telling him what I was looking to do. And he said, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, I'm from the Nashville area." He's like, "Oh, do you know Brianna? Like, she's from Nashville." I'm like, "No, I don't know her." And he's pointing her out. And he was like, "Okay, when we get our drink, I'll go introduce you to her." And then I walked over, he walked me over to her and said, "Hey, this is Melissa." And then she said, "Oh, you're from Nashville. Do you know Diana? She mentioned you." I was like, "Yes." And it's like, "Oh my gosh, instant connection." We knew some of the same people. And so now I've relied on her so much. She's been such an impactful part and an influence in my business as well, for me to be able to call her or pop up there. She's about probably 45 minutes away from me, but to go up there and say, "Hey, I wanted to run this ad, like at the bank, we couldn't do this. So like, what's that verbiage? How are you doing this? How are you structuring that? That's something I've never done before." And she's like, "Here's how I do it." Oh, right. Who's the good ones? What's going on? And she's like, "Here's my favorites. Here's why." It's like, wow, I've never been a part of a community so much so where your competitors are your collaborators. The people who are doing the same business as you in the same market can say, "You know what? There's enough for all of us," and help lift you up. But more so that it was a man supporting our community that made that connection, right? So it's not just for women. There's a great amount of men who are helping make those connections too.
And they really do. And I have a lot of really great guy friends in this industry too. And they're always like, "We want to go to the women's event. Like, we want to be there. We want to support and all that." And we've definitely talked about, like, men can come too. I mean, you guys can come, like, but at the core of it, this is for, women supporting women. We're going to talk about things that, the women can relate to and stuff, but you are more than welcome to come. And, it's so funny because a lot of the men that have referred women to the mortgage network, they call me and they're like, "Hey, my wife's going to get her license and I need you to bring her in and connect her." So I've had a lot of basically referrals into the group from men because they see what we're doing and they truly support us in that, which is great. So shout out to all the great guys out there. We love you for that. It's incredible to be able to have that type of support while we also have our safe place too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking of like safe place and communications, yeah, we have events, right, throughout the year. And those are fantastic times to like physically connect with other women in the room and build that deeper connection. But we have a support system through the Facebook group as well, right? Like if you need help, you're not even sure who to call. Maybe you don't have a Brianna in your market, or somebody that you feel like you can just pick up the phone to call. You can post it in the group, and we're just there to not just lift each other up and empower each other through messaging, but I think to also be able to have a safe place to ask questions and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, there was something that you had touched on with Brianna. It's a whole abundance mindset that you get. And I say all the time, on paper, we're competitors, but we collaborate so much better than we compete against each other. And it's really incredible when you have a community of people like that, like, I just want to see you win and I want to see her win and I want to see this person over here win. And if I can help in any way with that, I mean, it's such a cool thing to see that type of collaboration go back and forth between people who other words would be competitors, right? So that's pretty incredible. And, like you said, the Facebook group is such a great resource because at any point in time, you've got it right in your hand. We're on our phones on the app and stuff, and you can literally connect when you need it at any time that you need it and get the support that you need through the Facebook group. So it's a really, really great community, and we are growing it. So that's what's really cool too, is to just watch this thing become its own ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's great. I think there's been a few women that I've invited into it, and then women that I've met through actually the opposite way. So it was like, okay, I went to the event, I met these women, and then now I can connect with them on social. But I have it working the other way too, where there's women that I've met on social, right? And started following them or being inspired by them. And then when we had the WMN event that was tied to UWM Live just a few months ago, I was able to give a hug to somebody who
Yeah.
only knew me on social and that I only knew on social, and be like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? And just then deepen that connection, right? And so, you kind of build that community both ways, and then
Mhm.
you have that opportunity to really get to know somebody. Janisa was one as well. She's with Russell Petty's group, and I just watch her online, and I'm like, dang, she is so inspiring. Like, she's going places, she's building things, she's a smart girl. Like, I am just clapping for her, and she doesn't even know it, right? Because I just see her and I'm feeling those feelings. And then when I got to see her in person, I was like, girl, I just like, you got it going on. I love everything you're doing. And so, it's just both ways you can really uplift other women, both through the live events and then also through the social community.
Yeah. And I was at the women's mortgage event in New Orleans. I actually hosted one of the tracks that we had. It was one of the marketing tracks. Me and Christine Beckwith did together. But I don't think you and I actually met until the one that we just had, which was before UWM Live.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that was
right.
the first time we met, right?
Yeah.
Was that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, same thing. It's such a dynamic group of unique women that everyone has something unique to bring to the table. What you're doing really great is something that I probably need help with at some point in my business, and vice versa. And so you get all of that. You get women that are at different levels, with their marketing or with their structure of their business, or maybe you're starting out, or maybe you've been in it for a couple of years and you need a restructure. Maybe you need a mindset shift. Maybe you just need a friend, in this business. And so you get all of these different unique qualities from having all these different women in the group that are so willing and open to share. You get vulnerability, you get women that, have no problem saying like, hey, I need help today. And then you have women that are like, hey, I can help, and so it just really creates such a sense of safety, community. To me, I think the biggest thing has been literally the friendships that I've got out of it. Like, I can vent and we can also talk about business at the same time. Some of my group chats with some of these women that were in together, if you read through them, there's just a roller coaster of stuff. We're talking about home life, kids, things like that. And it's like, hey, what did you do for marketing over here? And we're switching gears really quickly. But that's truly, I think, kind of where the magic happens, not to sound corny or trite about it, but it really is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so going back to that event where you did that workshop, I mean, like I said, for me, I was in a transition period where I really needed those workshops. So I think the one that I ended up, although I think there was 4 workshops, if I remember correctly, and of course I wanted to, or maybe there were 6 tracks, I don't know, but I wanted to like be in all of them because I needed all the things, right? And I
Yeah.
think the one that I ended up being in might have been SOPs.
Okay.
To build standard operating procedures, right? I'm like, I'm going to open my own business. I need standard operating procedures. So I think that's the group that I ended up sticking in. But just for the listeners to just kind of explain. So one of the events that we did with WMN was an actual workshop, right? So it's like, okay, not just we're a community of friends, which we are, but it's like, how do we help each other level up in business as well? And so can you just speak to like, there was different tracks, like what different workshops can we help you grow your business in this particular area? Can you just talk really quick about like, what was your track? What were you trying to help women with in their business?
Yeah, mine was marketing. And so we did a whole branding thing. And these tracks, like you already said, there were workshops, they were very hands-on. So we had handouts to give to everybody to start filling in to figure out what your brand is, right? And it goes so much further than your logo. It's who are you as a person? What's your essence? What are the things that you believe in, your value systems, things like that. And so we did a whole workshop on that and the importance of your branding and your messaging and all that. And we helped a lot of the women really dial in kind of who they are and what their messaging is, and then how to get that message across to your audience. One of the things with social media, it's such a powerful tool, but you're obviously not in person, right? And so how do you get your essence of who you are across when you're on a screen? How do you do that? And so we went through all that. We went through all the branding and the marketing and how to create that for yourself. And everything down to like colors, what do colors say about you? What is like black's very powerful, right? So we dialed all that in with the women that were in our marketing track. And there were, I can't remember what each of the tracks were, but what we did after that was we hosted live workshops in the WMN group, and we went over the stuff that we talked about on that track. So if you couldn't physically be at the table because you went over to the SOPs, or whatever other track that you needed at that moment, we took these live into the group. And so everybody got a piece of what the different tracks were. So you could take those things and implement them if you needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think, just speaks to the whole purpose of WMN, right? It's like the community, but also the education, the friendships, but also the support, right? And in the business. And I do recall getting on one of those tracks later on through the community just to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that was so helpful. And also, you mentioned Christine Beckwith, right? So she is a phenomenal expert coach and author. I mean, she's an incredible person to be a part of this community who's gifted her time also to us and to our community. So sharing her knowledge, and there's a ton of other women like that who are very busy, successful women. It's not just filled with a bunch of women who have nothing better to do. I mean, these are women whose calendars are jam packed, but they're like, you know what? I'm going to take some time and give back to these people, these women that I really care about, to help them and grow their business. So, yeah, that was a very powerful workshop. And I think for me at the UWM live event, which was a little bit more speaker focused, I mean, even some of those speakers was like, wow, I took back tons of, notes and next steps and things that I need to do just based on, I'm like, wow, okay, she's doing this. She's sharing her secrets with me.
Yeah. 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 And something's going to resonate with somebody differently. So when we have, different facets of the business that we're talking about, and someone who's an expert in any one thing, I mean, you've got a room full of women that have a different level of where we might need help in any specific area. And so we really put together speakers, we put together the workshops, we do all of that to where it hits like different parts of the business. So I want everyone to walk away. If you take one thing away, that's a win. I want everyone to be able to walk away with at least one thing that they can implement and an actionable item that's going to help them scale and grow. And so I love to hear that was your experience at the UWM one, because I thought we had a great lineup of women, and that we're all, at different points, right? Like some very tech heavy, some very, kind of old school, right? Like, I just pick up the phone and call, and that's how I grew my business. But you get something out of everybody and what they're willing to share. And it's great too, because a lot of this is we're all volunteering our time, and so you get these women that are they're saying yes, they're taking time away from their families, they're traveling, but they're doing it to help the community. And so it's just huge. Everyone's just so generous with their time and their knowledge.
Yeah. And I would say vulnerability too. One of the things that impacted me pretty greatly was, I want to say it was Holly, and she was telling her story about how she is very successful now, right? And it's almost like it's the Instagram, what's the saying? It's like that, it's the Instagram
reel.
life, right? It's not real, right? I want the real. And so you look at people's success and you think that they are just lucky, or that they just got there, or that you couldn't do what they've done, right? It just seems unattainable. And so she, in telling her story where she was, in this origination, then she was in this space where she's like, I don't even know that I want to be in mortgage anymore, right? Like, that's heavy. And I'm sure at some point somebody else has thought that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think we've all probably at some point gone through that. I am going on, I think, my 16th year in the industry, and like I'd be lying if I said I didn't hit a point where I questioned myself and my place in the industry, and if I had even wanted to stay in, and keep grinding it out. And she was very vulnerable about that she hit a point where she just wasn't sure, and then she was reinvigorated, and she has stayed in, and she has found some success. But that is something we can all relate to. We can all relate to that. And you don't hear a lot of that stuff, right? Like you mentioned it, the highlight reel. You don't hear a lot of the struggles that we went through, because we want to celebrate the wins. It feels good to celebrate our wins, but to be able to pull back those layers and just get really raw with it and say like, nope, this is where I found myself. This was a space that I had found myself in. We've all been there. We've all experienced that. No one's immune to that.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, again, I think it just fits along with the theme for anybody listening. If you're not a part of WMN, if you hopefully by now are getting kind of a feel of like what we do, the impact that we try to make for each other, it's not a bunch of chauvinists. We're not here to, keep secrets to ourselves. We're not here to make anybody feel lesser than. It's like, no, here to lift you up. We're here to share secrets. We're here to be vulnerable, tell our truths, and then, just make honest, real connections. And hopefully, that's what people are getting out of. Like I said, I've only been in it a year, so I'm like, feel just overwhelmed with appreciation and gratitude for this group. And I know you wouldn't have been in it for 6-7 years if you didn't feel the same. But, I just really want to send that message home to anybody listening. Like, if you are not a part of this community, you really are missing out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great, my last question to you would have been, if someone's looking at joining the group and if someone's brand new and you're speaking to somebody brand new, what would you tell them? And I think you just nailed it. I think you totally just nailed it. You've got a unique perspective because you've only been in for a year. So you're still pretty new, right? And you're still kind of getting the landscape, and you dove in with 2 feet. You're on the committee now. So thank you for your contributions. And, anyone that's, considering joining, if you're intimidated or if you don't know where to start, you could reach out to literally any one of us. And even someone who's not on the committee, if they're part of the Women's Mortgage Network, just reach out to them because we want you here. We totally want you here. And we want you with us.
Yeah. And I would just add to that. If you're going to join something, join with intention and really put yourself in. And one of the things that I find people who sometimes join a community or a group, they join and then they stay silent. But it's like, no, like, join and speak. Like, we want to welcome you. We want to help you. So the way that you're going to get the most impact from this community of women is like, ask. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for help. Just like, you're here, we're here to help you. So number 1, join, but number 2, join with intention. Number 3, join and ask questions. Join to give and receive. But the only way you can do that is if you really put yourself out there, and it's a safe place to do it. So,
yeah. Well, that's awesome, Melissa. I think that is a great way to wind down our podcast. I'm so glad that you joined me on this one today. I loved the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been so good to meet, really get to know you more as well. Like you said, you were in the committee, but we've gotten closer the more and more events and things that have gone on. So you're just a blessing to me as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll see you in Nashville.
Okay, Fuse 2025. Here we come.
We're excited when I got my boots ready, girl. We're coming.
Not just that, but I heard that there may or may not be some karaoke because you may or may not throw some rap songs down. I don't know. Rumor has it.
There's some video flying around from the New Orleans event, sitting with their hands on it. I like to throw a little Dr. Dre at the crowd. So
you can't wait.
You can count on it.